Thank you for watching QTV with the news. My name is Diana Sumbwe. We take a look at stories making headlines. Government of Switzerland has hailed the bilateral relations and economic cooperation that exists between Zambia and that country. And the three church mother bodies leading the national dialogue have been challenged to state the agenda being followed in the dialogue process. And now the news in detail. The government of Switzerland has hailed the bilateral relations and economic cooperation that exists between Zambia and that country. Federal Councillor and head of the Department of Foreign Affairs of Switzerland, Ignacio Cassis, says his country and Zambia have since independence enjoyed good relations. Mr. Cassis says following the establishment of a Swiss consulate in Zambia in 1969, after recognizing the independence of Zambia in 1966, the two countries have cooperated in a number of areas. He says Zambia and Switzerland have also signed various agreements that include the reciprocal protection of investment and the Convention for the Avoidance of Double Taxation. Mr. Cassis, who is leading a delegation to Zambia, said the economic relations between the two countries have since increased with Zambia's exports to his country. He notes that Zambia actually exports more than what it exports to China, South Africa and United States of America combined. Mr. Cassis states that Switzerland has in fact become the largest trading partner of Zambia with about 44.3% shares in Zambia's export. The visiting federal councillor and head of the Department of Foreign Affairs of Switzerland was speaking when he called on President Edgar Lungu at State House in Lusaka.
Mr. President, on 3rd of August 1994, an agreement on the promotion and reciprocal protection of investments was signed between Switzerland and Zambia. Since then, our economic relations have increased importantly. According to the statistics of the WTO, Zambia's exports to Switzerland amount to more than the exports to China, South Africa and DRC combined. With 44.3% of share in Zambia's exports, Switzerland is the largest export trading partner of Zambia. Last October, you met with a Swiss business delegation led by our ambassador to Zambia, Mr. Arthur Matley. As you know, Swiss enterprises in the pharmaceutical, mining, cement, commodity trading and quality control industries have been of strategic national interest.
And President Lungu says Zambia appreciates bilateral ties that are beneficial to citizens of both countries. President Lungu and the Swiss delegation later held a closed-door meeting.
That we host the FIFA organization in Zurich, of course.
Anyway, you're most welcome, Your Excellency. I'm happy to receive you at the State House in Lusaka. And if you at home, you're most welcome to Zambia. We were looking forward to this trip, your visit, and that it has come to be realized is a joy for us. So usually people who travel have messages. So can you get your message?
The head of state had earlier met the German delegation led by Federal Minister for Economic Cooperation and Development, Gerd Müller. Mr. Müller praised Zambia for being an example in Africa in maintaining peace and unity in the country. He observed that the region looks up to Zambia and hoped that the neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo will have a peaceful transition of power following the elections last week. President Lungu said the regional bodies are on top of this, adding that he was in the afternoon scheduled to travel to South Africa for a meeting regarding the Congo situation.
There are a lot of issues of mutual interest which we can discuss and engage. Obviously, the world has become a global village now. What is happening in Berlin, in Munich, in Zambia is simultaneously, instantaneously being conveyed across the globe. So it's important that we begin exchanging notes, because sometimes what is communicated is not exactly what it is. Especially with cameras, with people who are able to manipulate the media. So I was looking forward to your coming And usually what we say is welcome means you're welcome.
From Malawi yesterday, and we are very interested in the political situation here, and thank you for your policy. Zambia stands for stability, peace and reforms in your country, and you are very important for this region as a big country. Yes, and we will start in the afternoon some new projects in the energy field. Germany will start a new initiative in the field of agriculture. We establish a innovation center to give support to your rural areas, to your farmers. So we have a close partnership, I would say a friendship over 53 years.
Later, President Lungu met the European Union delegation led by EU Ambassador Alessandro Mariano. The delegation and the President discussed matters of peace and security of the region, with President Lungu noting that SADC leaders are hoping that the will of the people will prevail in the DRC. President Lungu said Zambia is the chair of the SADC organ on defense and security and will help possible to ensure peace in the region. And Mr. Mariano said the EU will continue to work with Zambia and the rest of the countries in the region.
We are also very grateful for the fact that we have continuous exchanges and collaboration, and this is evident in all the domains, be it the one of foreign policy, but be it also the one of domestic affairs, and including from the economic point of view. All the member states of the European Union are very supportive, and the European Union as a whole is very supportive of the policies and the economic and development trajectory of our country. 2019 is a new year, but is a continuation of the very good relationship, and whatever can be done in order to further reinforce this excellent relation will be definitely done by all of us. These are my remarks.
Thank you so much for the encouraging words. All I can say is that we have your cooperation and support as the partners, and receiving our commitment to South Africa to go and follow up in some aspects relating to our role as the chair of the organ on defense and security and the Senate. This has to do with Colombia, obviously,
The Ministry of Health has declined to disclose the exact condition of Richard Zulu, the Chipata boy, who on Monday in Lusaka underwent an operation to remove the remaining needles embedded in his body. It is also not clear how many foreign objects were removed from the boy's body when local surgeons operated on him at the University Teaching Hospital UTH in a surgery that lasted about 3 hours. Ministry of Health Permanent Secretary for Administration Kennedy Malama, however, says his ministry is excited and overjoyed by the successful operation conducted on the 3-year-old boy. Dr. Malama told journalists in Lusaka that Richard has been put on post-operative care and management in the hospital's intensive care unit ICU, where he was admitted after the operation. He states that his ministry will not, on the other hand, buy into insinuations with respect to the circumstances that led to the foreign objects finding themselves in the boy's body. The permanent secretary states that his ministry and the UTH will nevertheless do their part to ensure good health of the boy. On Monday, a team of local medical experts at UTH conducted a surgical operation on the 3-year-old boy from around 12 hours to about 15 hours. Minister of Lands and Natural Resources Jean Kapata has given the Commissioner of Lands a 2 weeks ultimatum to issue Chirundu residents offer letters. Ms. Kapata is incensed after learning that Chirundu residents have not been given offer letters since they applied in 2016. She has wondered why the Commissioner of Lands has taken long to issue offer letters to applicants recommended by the District Council. Ms. Kapata is concerned that delay by the Commissioner in issuing the offer letters will hamper the distribution of title deeds. She disclosed that her ministry has an ambitious program this year of issuing 75,000 title deeds per quarter. The Minister of Lands and Natural Resources has wondered how the program will then be achieved if the Commissioner of Lands is dragging in issuing offer letters to applicants. She said this in response to Chirundu District Council Secretary John Mwanza, who wanted her to intervene over the issue of land offer letters in the area. The Opposition Economic and Equity Party EEP has challenged the three church mother bodies leading the national dialogue to state the agenda being followed in the dialogue process. EEP President Chirufa Tayali says his party wants the three church mother bodies to also clarify the impasse that is there between the church and the Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue ZCID. In a letter addressed to the ZCCB, EFZ and the CCZ, Mr. Tayali has disclosed that his party is uncomfortable attending the launch of the national dialogue if the ZCID is not part of the dialogue process. He says as far as his party is concerned, there is no national dialogue initiated by the church other than the one that was led by the Commonwealth and later taken over by the ZCID. Mr. Tayali states that the understanding of the EEP therefore is that there is an agenda that has already been agreed upon by various political parties who met in Siavonga as ZCID members. He says this is the agenda his party is comfortable with because it was collectively agreed upon by various political parties, and Mr. Tayali has argued with those who are suggesting that the National Democratic Congress NDC consultant Jishimba Kambwili has no right to attend the launch of the national dialogue. He says by being a Patriotic Front member of Parliament and a consultant for the NDC, Mr. Kambwili does not have the capacity to represent any political party at the launch of the national dialogue.
NDC, they have got the right to hire a consultant, and the consultant is not part of that political party. So as far as we know, Chishimba Kambwili is a consultant for NDC and not a president for NDC, not even a member of NDC. That's what we understand. But Chishimba Kambwili is a member of Patriotic Front, representing the people of Ron constituency, which is under PF, and he's sitting in parliament even as we speak. He's a member of parliament sitting and drawing remunerations under PF. So Chishimba Kambwili, as far as we are concerned, it is very clear, and he's even in court defending it. He is a PF member, and as such, he cannot go and represent another political party. He can be a consultant, quite all right, but he cannot present a political party and on an event like that one. It can't happen.
Minister of Agriculture Michael Katambo has disclosed that the African Development Bank has given Zambia 500,000 United States dollars to help fight armyworms that have broken out in some parts of the districts in the country. Mr. Katambo says the money will be used to procure chemicals for the spray of armyworms in affected areas in order to eradicate the fall of the armyworms. He has assured farmers that his administration is ready to wipe out armyworms which have invaded some maize fields on the Copperbelt and other parts of the country to avoid importation of maize. Mr. Katambo states that his ministry is just finalizing the procurement of chemicals, saying once the procurement is done, his ministry will start distributing the chemicals in some parts of the country.
There are indications in selected designated districts of our country reporting the outbreak of the African or the fall armyworm. So these sporadic reports in selected parts of our country like Luanshya, as you've mentioned, Rufunsa is one. The ministry is just finalizing the procurement of chemicals. Our cooperating partners, the African Development Bank, have managed to give us about $500,000 to procure the chemicals to eradicate this ravaging pest, the fall armyworm. So we are on point, and once this is finalized, and then the distribution will have to get on into all our provinces, especially in the areas that there's indication of this ravaging pest.
Government has launched the 2020 census pilot mapping exercise publicity campaign for Lusaka districts. Speaking during the launch in Chibolia compound, Lusaka District Commissioner Captain Davis Mulenga said this exercise will run for a period of 1 month. Captain Mulenga says the pilot mapping exercise is a dress rehearsal which serves to confirm the suitability of a new methodology and the introduced innovative procedures. He has appealed to the residents of Lusaka district to cooperate with the enumerators and provide them with the required information when they are visited.
The purpose of the census is to provide the full, reliable picture of Zambia's population and housing, which includes various characteristics such as demographic, social and economic data about each locality in the country. The census of population and housing is unique in that it can be used to investigate small and special population groups and to provide information about small geographic units such as wards and the chiefs areas, with information pertaining to but not limited to the following: numbers of people according to age and the sex, number of schools to be built, number of teachers to be trained, locating of potential sites for businesses and provision of medical services. The government, ladies and gentlemen, under the leadership of Mr. Edgar Chagwalungu, has commenced the mapping exercise throughout Lusaka and the Chongwe districts. This exercise will go on for a month.
Speaking during the same launch, Central Statistical Office Regional Statistician Robson Sinkamba said the enumerators will have identification cards and will be dressed in t-shirts labeled 2020 Census.
Every house will be covered in the Lusaka district and beyond. So all houses in the Republic of Zambia will be covered. But in this case, Pamene mwachokera manyumba yenangu pamene muno mulusaka tipwela so olomailo the other date zakwela ololelo so tingapwele kunyumba kwanu. So please don't harass them, don't grab their tablets, accept them in your households. Mwasu kama questions yonsaye wala mipusha weda mukala kuchilenje weda mukala kulilanda weda mukala kumakoma ndevu olo kubaulen Kapunonga, so dear message for all Lusaka residents. Onse tizapenda na kusiliza osa bapishaini ngati mabwela zakwela na ID mwabele kambila wa guest of honor, bazakwela na t-shirt, bazakwela na letter of introduction. Bacha nisipachokela kwatu mwavera ka
And Harry Mwanga Nkumbula Ward 11 Ward Development Committee Chairperson Andrew Mwewa is happy that the Central Statistics Office is conducting roadshows ahead of the census next year.
So, please, tulindire okupendwa twishimeko bati gavumenti ishutira pangandapa pali abantu abaso so nga bayisa abantu pamayanda pamwe n'omukwayi otukubakana iyo namubona bakalafola amatishesi nga yabakweta abantu I don't know if it's orange, yellow and orange. So please, mwakula ishibokira abantu baisa balefoka kutupeni. Lero census taile chitika omwakayo. Ile chitika omwaka oleisa owa 2020. Ayama road shows aya yaku monokutira fwebene fwebantu bakesa mukola apenda twaba rate na mulu twaipeka nayi. So mao yameni nayo pano tikazwala ndira bantu bakabwera.
Government has directed the Lusaka City Council to surcharge owners of about 2,700 mobile money booths operating illegally in Lusaka. And the Lusaka City Council has given a 21 days ultimatum to mobile service operators in the country to ensure that mobile money booths are designated legal, safe and healthy places to trade from. The directive and ultimatum follows a meeting Lusaka Province Minister Bowman Lusambo had with mobile service operators at his office. Mr. Lusambo had summoned mobile service operators after he received a petition from agents and dealers whose mobile service booths have been confiscated by the Lusaka City Council. During the meeting, the Lusaka City Council revealed that there are 3,000 mobile service booths in Lusaka City, but that only 300 are listed on its database as the ones that are tax compliant. And Lusaka Deputy Mayor Chilando Chitangala explained that the council has been confiscated booths partly because it wants to ensure sanity in the city and avoid outbreaks of diseases. Mrs. Chitangala says that the council will, however, work closely with the mobile service companies to ensure that their agents relocate their booths in markets and places where they can access toilets. Speaking earlier, representatives of mobile service companies asked for more time to be allocated to them in order for them to find adequate and sanitary places their agents can operate from. And Mr. Lusambo says there is need for sanitary to be maintained in the way business is conducted in the city in order to prevent outbreaks of diseases. Political parties that have formed an alliance ahead of the 2021 elections have been advised to test their strength by fielding one candidate in each of the forthcoming by-elections. Electoral expert McDonald Chipenzi says contesting in the February 12th by-elections will enable the 10 political parties ascertain the impact of their alliance of Zambia's political landscape. Mr. Chipenzi is suggesting that if alliance political party members jointly put their energy together in the by-elections and actually win the polls, their victory will boost their morale going into the 2021 elections. He states that a victory of a joint effort by all 10 political parties will equally determine whether their alliance has been accepted by majority citizens or not.
Whether the electorate have welcomed it or not, perhaps we have to check a by-election which is coming in few weeks' time. If the alliance can test its impact on the electorate, it will be very good, because the results there, if they win with a landslide, victory over the ruling party, then they'll be very happy to say, well, this is what we have done. I think the alliance has been accepted by majority citizens. And there are other ward by-elections that are in different parts of the country. If the alliance can put their energy in those local government by-elections, I can assure you if they win all of them, then they will be standing on a very high political podium to say, yes, the people have accepted us and we are going to give the ruling party very good competition come 2021. Right.
The Jesuit Center for Theological Reflection, JCTR, has welcomed government's pronouncement that it plans to print ballot papers for the 2021 general elections locally. Recently, Works and Supply Minister Mutoto announced that the 2021 ballot papers will be printed locally as directed by President Edgar Lungu when he swore him in as new minister. JCTR Faith and Justice Program Officer Dominica Kabale says that government's resolve to print ballot papers locally locally is progressive and should be supported by all electoral stakeholders. Ms. Kabale has, however, recommended that a government should start preparations now. She has stressed that printing the ballot papers locally will reduce speculations of rigging during elections. Ms. Kabale also feels that the move will empower local companies. Thus, it is important for them to up their game and meet the international standards that are required for them to print ballot papers.
I mean, it is achievable. If other countries have done that, why can't we as Zambians? All we need to do is trust ourselves, build enough capacity in our companies, empower them, and ensure that they meet those standards. They reach that level where they can compete with other companies that have been printing ballot papers locally in other countries. So it is achievable. And if these companies could be trusted, if they could be given that opportunity and the preparations could begin now, I think we can make it, because we have about 2.5 years from now. So it's achievable. So I would like to urge stakeholders out there to support this move and have more trust in our local companies. Perhaps after they've tried it, then we can maybe assess. And also what we'd like to urge the local companies out there is to up their game and meet those international standards that are required of them if they have to print these ballot papers. After all, I think that's the only way that we can reduce all these speculations of rigging during elections. I mean,
And the Islamic Supreme Council of Zambia, ISCZ President Suzio Zimba, has proposed that government should release funds now towards the printing of ballot papers locally. Mr. Zimba feels it is possible and commendable. He feels that government should not delay in releasing funds in order to actualize the printing of ballot papers locally.
And I mean, we have to save money. There's a lot of money spent on printing ballot papers from outside, and we have to believe in ourselves and we have to be honest. I don't think the people that work that are with the government printers, and also looking at the numbers of the foreign observers that normally visit the country whenever we have elections, will allow anything to happen. So let's believe in our people, and we believe that they are honest, and we have to believe that the matter will be handled very well. It's a good thing for the government. I think we have to try. I see even apples can be grown in Zambia, but we prefer to import apples, and it's a culture that really has made our country poor. But if we can do it locally, and government printers makes money for themselves, it's good for the country, and it's also good for the workers. I know there will be many who cry are those who are used to allowances, going out, taken to Dubai, taken to Durban, they do enjoy. But I see also there will be more monitors from the stakeholders, because usually it's expensive for the board to take everyone to outside the country, but now it will be locally, and we'll spend more time and more people.
The Disability Rights Watch has called on Ministry of Transport and Communication Minister Brian Mushimba to ensure that they address the needs of physically challenged persons in the country. Organization National Coordinator Bryce Choma has encouraged the minister to ensure that the new buses are of standards that will be disabled friendly. Speaking to QTV News, Mr. Choma has observed that currently the buses are very difficult and almost impossible for physically challenged persons to get on and off. He adds that the Ministry of Transport should also work closely with the Ministry of Local Government to ensure that bus stations have platforms that physically challenged, especially the wheelchair users, can use to get on and off from buses. Mr. Choma has emphasized the need to ensure for universal access to public transport by physically challenged persons, a situation he states will also ensure for dignity for all.
We want to appeal to the Minister of Transport and Communications to take advantage of the process of phasing out small buses and replacing them with big buses, to ensure that the buses that will be imported by the public and private sector must have accessibility standards that will allow for people with disabilities, especially those with physical disabilities like those who are on wheelchairs, to be able to access transport easily and freely and independently. This means that as government is phasing out the current buses, they have to establish standards that are going to compel the private sector to be able to import buses that will be able to be usable by all citizens, including persons with disabilities. This means also that the government has to extend tax incentives and allow public transport operators to get tax relief and import buses that are accessible duty-free, so that there can be an enforcement of the correct level of standards. It also means that the ministry must work with the Ministry of Local Government to ensure that the bus stations are also accessible. This means that they must establish platforms that are going to comply to the standards, to allow for those buses to have platforms whereby which can be independently wheeled from the platform of a bus station into the bus and off the bus at designated bus stations. It also means that we need to ensure that even facilities like public toilets are made accessible to persons with disabilities in the markets and bus stations, so that they can be universal access and dignity for all as they access public transport. We are very confident that there's political will to address this matter, and we believe that moving forward, it's important that the public transport system must begin to take into account the needs of persons with disabilities, because as things stand right now, public transport is quite a nightmare for people with disabilities to use. It's very expensive and it's very indignifying. We want
To end the news, we take a look at stories making headlines once again. The government of Switzerland has hailed the bilateral relations and economic cooperation that exists between Zambia and that country. And the three church mother bodies leading the national dialogue have been challenged to state the agenda being followed in the dialogue process. On that note, we come to the end of the news. From me, Diana Sumbwe. Thank you for watching.